In 1995, a man in Ontario, Canada, claims that he had a bizarre encounter with a strange man in an even stranger disguise. At the time, the witness, a man named Jason Hartle, was working as a waiter at a Kelsey's Bar and Grill in Scarborough, Ontario. The bar was located at Markham Road and Ellesmere Avenue. Hartle recalled that it was mid-afternoon, and the rush from lunch had begun to taper off. The staff at the front of the restaurant consisted of himself, the bartender, and periodically the manager on duty. At some point, two Caucasian-looking male customers entered the establishment, and Hartle greeted them just inside the entrance where the "Wait to be seated" sign was posted. I was immediately struck by one of the men, as the appearance of his skin was odd. His skin appeared almost translucent-like, as if he were wearing a skin suit. He was also quite tall. I estimate 6'4", mostly bald, large build. Hartle does not recall anything unusual about the other man. He seated them both and proceeded to take their order. Their demeanor, when ordering food and beverage, and in communicating with me, was also strange. The unremarkable person ordered a meal and beverage normally, if you will. This person also spoke to me only when placing his order. The person in question, the man in the skin suit, if you will, ordered in a strange manner. I still remember him ordering a hamburger, but it was as if he had never ordered a hamburger before. He was very concerned that there would be no mayonnaise on the hamburger. Hartle claims he stood very close to where the men were eating, and he watched them intently during their time in the restaurant. I am convinced he was wearing a disguise to look human. At the time, I was so convinced about my observations, I mentioned it to the bartender. The two men stayed for about 45 minutes before finishing up. They paid in cash and promptly left the establishment. Hartle eventually put it out of his mind until about 1997, when the film Men in Black was released. In the film, Vincent D'Onofrio plays a farmer who is killed by an alien after it crash lands on his property. The alien then proceeds to use his skin as a disguise, but his inability to adapt to human norms becomes quite noticeable. The appearance of the character in the film, pale, sweaty, odd-looking, strange mannerisms, it reminded me very much of this encounter with the guy a couple of years prior. Since that time, the Kelsey's establishment closed and Hartle moved on, becoming a Toronto area paramedic. He believes wholeheartedly that he encountered a non-human entity that day, and the experience still bothers him even today. All I can say is the event encounter has stuck with me my entire life. To this day, I have never encountered another human that struck me like this entity did. I can tell you that is saying something. As I work as a paramedic in Toronto, I have seen in my 16-year career all manner of illness and people looking not well or freshly dead. Not once did I think I was in the presence of an ET wearing a skin suit. Interestingly, that isn't the first time I've heard of such a thing. In 2014, in Victoria, England, a man claims he too encountered a strange man in a coffee shop. I was in a coffee shop, placing my order and chatting with the barista, when I sensed the sudden tension in the room. This was not necessarily a psychic awareness, because the barista and the other people in the shop, who I could see in my peripheral vision, all seemed to get tense and nervous at once. There was something happening behind me. I turned to look and I saw this man standing there. I couldn't tell if he was 40 or 80. He was wearing a western shirt, jeans, and cowboy boots, all brand new, and he was toting a suitcase. The witness claims the man was wearing mirrored sunglasses. As he looked at him, he began to feel nauseous, like there was something wrong about him. It was an utter revulsion like I've never felt before. I took my coffee and got out of there because I thought I'd be sick, and also felt a sense of being in danger in an unspecified way. I've been around my share of sinister people, but I'd never felt anything like this. The witness acknowledges that he didn't do anything to inspire fear, but he just felt it. Also, the man appeared, in his words, a little too clean, almost sterile. The weirdest thing was, I couldn't shake this idea that the man was not a whole person, but just a collection of pieces being held together by his clothes. Crazy, I know, but that's the image that kept pressing itself upon my mind, along with the nausea. This experience was so troubling that I stayed home a few days after that, afraid I might see him again.